Hello and welcome. I'm your host Gadd. Over the last few weeks, I've been diving deep into the new Inferno VI legendary skills from the April update, and I've got to say, it's been an absolute blast. After plenty of testing, I've built a PvE Crusader setup that takes raid damage to the next level. With just a couple of skill swaps from my previous raid build, I boosted my DPS big time, while also having tons of fun blasting through Inferno VI and Gauntlet 5 bosses. In this guide, I'll break down everything you need to melt bosses consistently, starting with the skills and legendaries, skill rotation, Paragon, green set, Reforge, curse sets, and legendary gems. Timestamps will be in the description below. Skills and legendaries. Starting with the new helm for Fist of the Heavens from the Inferno VI, Find Misfortune. Activate Lightning Agent. Fist of the Heavens now empowers you with lightning, and when your next skill hits an enemy, lightning bolts will rain down on that location. Looking at the detail of the skill, Fist of the Heavens is now a buff skill with a 6-second cooldown, causing 7+ bolts of lightning to rain down where your next skill hits an enemy, each bolt dealing massive damage. And from my testing, it seems the original effect of Fist of the Heavens, for every 10% of target enemies missing life, the damage dealt to that target will be increased by 25%. Making this lightning damage execute skill hit multiple times is massive. With it dealing massive lightning damage, I recommend the next Fist of the Heavens essence. For the pants, Shock Trooper. Fist of the Heavens also explodes when hitting a burning enemy, dealing lightning damage to nearby enemies and applying shock. It cannot occur more often than once every 2 seconds, affecting enemies, dealing AoE damage and applying shock, a damage over time effect which increases lightning damage taken by 50%. On the shoulders for Judgment, the main DPS of the build, the Yawning Rose. To activate Trial by Fire, Judgment now calls bolts of fire to fall continuously in an area around you, burning random nearby enemies even after the nerf of Yawning Rose in the April 14th update from 0.5 seconds every 1 second. It is still the top skill for Crusader DPS, dealing massive fire damage over time debuff. I'm really happy they removed the location circles. On the chest for Condemn, Akrat's Rebuke. To activate Valor's Retribution. Condemn now fills your soul with Valor's Retribution, causing every primary attack to unleash a lightning bolt at your target, dealing damage to all nearby enemies. With the added offhand Torrential Refrain, Condemn immediately triggers, causing them to take the remaining damage instantly. Condemn now is a buff skill, causing every primary attack to unleash lightning bolt at your target to all nearby enemies and causing that lightning bolt to instantly trigger the remaining duration all damage over time effects on the target. It does instant damage. For example, the burn effect from a 4 green set for Angments, the total damage for a 3-second duration over time is now instant every time Condemn hits a target. Max Pew Pew. On the main hands 1 and 2, and for the offhand 2 for Sacred Fire, starting off with Signified Scribe. Sacred Fire deals increased damage to shocked enemies. Sacred Fire is a frontal cone primary attack that deals 25% less damage to nearby enemies, the primary target. With that, the Horn Splitter. Sacred Fire now ignites enemies, burning them over time. And lastly, this is my recommended offhand Resplendent main. Sacred Fire also increases your primary attack speed by 10%, stacking up a maximum of 3 times. All 3 of these essences, which I recommend, will min-max your Sacred Fire skill damage with Essency Mastery and Gem Awakening. The last skill I recommend is Holy Banner. Plant a Holy Banner that inspires allies, increasing the crit hit chance by 100%, but decreasing the crit hit damage to 135% instead of double. Critical hit change over 100% will grant up to 65% additional crit hit damage. I recommend this to give your teammates true damage while it's up. The beauty of this build is that you can change this skill to Conjuration of Light for Gauntlet if your raid requires a support, or a skill to add even more damage. Skill rotation. To maximize consistent raid DPS on bosses, be mobile during phase changes and deal maximum with Yawning Rose, Fist of the Heavens, and your primary attack. This skill rotation I recommend starting with buffing yourself with Fist of the Heavens before the fight, then activate Judgment as you engage, dropping Holy Banner between you and your nearby teammates into a primary attack of Sacred Fire. This will proc all damage over time effects on the boss, followed up with Condemn, buffing your primary attack. Condemn will now proc all damage over time effects instantly, increasing your overall raid damage. Buffing yourself once again with Fist of the Heavens once triggered, keeping the shock debuff up 100% of the time from Shock Trooper. With Sanctifying Scribe and Horn Splitter Sacred Fire essence added, will keep constant burn damage over time effects and massive primary attack damage. Fist of the Heavens deals more damage the lower the HP percentage, and with a short cooldown dealing massive damage. At times I found waiting for Condemn to fall off, reactivating helps, letting the overall raid dots stack once again, or keep it simple and have 100% uptime. Paragon. My recommended Paragon for this raid build is the Slayer tree. My recommended choices are Deterioration. Continual damage from harmful effects is increased by 10%. Proficiency. Primary attack and ult damage are increased by 7%. Tempo and up the tempo. Primary attacks increase your primary attack speed up to a maximum stack of 20%. And lastly, Vigor. Primary attacks against the same enemy deal increased damage up to a maximum of 10%. For the legendary Paragon, there are two really good choices I recommend. Overloaded, causing your next 5 primary attacks within 3 seconds to have a 60% increase of primary attack speed. Can now occur more than once every 20 seconds from the previous effect ended. The pros of this skill are great burst DPS on bosses at the start and during the fight, but the con of using the skill is during the boss's phase changes when they become immune to damage. Another great skill I recommend, Death's Release. Continual damage harmful effects explode when they expire, dealing 30% of their total damage to all nearby enemies once every 10 seconds. Death's Release adds great damage with the use of Torrential Refrain, since all your damage over time effects expire at once. This is great when bosses summon adds, and just an easier way to go all out. Green sets. Can you name the main green set for this build? If you said Angmans, you are correct. I recommend a 4-piece Angmans configuration. For the duration of additional ignite status effects is increased by 30%, and a 15% chance of attaching an ignite status to an enemy when dealing damage with primary attacks or skills. Dealing damage that stacks to a max of 3 over 3 seconds. 2-piece Vitu's Urge to increase the duration of all beneficial effects on you and your party members by 30%. Lastly, a 2-piece Feasting Barons pack to increase the duration of your harmful effects by 30%. This is the top recommended PvE green set for Crusaders in Diablo Immortal. I learned from other pro players that first, get 2 good Vitu bracelets for the 2 set bonus. Doing this has made crafting and changing green sets simpler in the endgame. Reforge. First, a little tip if you're a player with multiple Reforge settings. When transitioning into upgraded gear and save them in your armory, be sure to double check that is the correct Reforge you want to save. I've noticed my PvP Reforge sets were at times saved in my PvE build, and vice versa. So if a lack of damage in PvE or dying a little fast in PvP, check your Reforge at the blacksmith, make any corrections if needed, and then save. Hope this helps. Now back to the guide. From the Vengeance set, I recommend a 2-set attack speed increase in all gear slots, a choice of damage increase to enemies suffering loss of control, or damage to demons is increased. These are amazing for raids, gauntlet, and all PvE events. From the Wildfire set, I recommend a 2 or 3 set, all skill damage is increased, critical hit damage increased, damage done to enemies below 30% life is increased, or primary attack damage increased. And lastly, but more importantly in all gear slots, duration beneficial effects increase. Curse sets. For the curse set, I focus on PvP, but I always run a 6-piece Nettled. Gaining a shield for the next 6 seconds every time you are hit, you will counterattack, dealing 40% of your damage to all nearby enemies. Damage dealt to enemies hit by counterattack is increased by 16% every 30 seconds. And a 2-piece Ghosted, creating an illusion with 40% of your life when you use a buff skill. The illusion will take a portion of your incoming damage and last 6 seconds every 90 seconds. I recommend Nettled if you proc shields due to legendary gems or pets for the nearby AoE countering damage and damage increase debuff to all nearby enemies. My recommendation for more PvE focus would be Lash. Your primary attacks now have a chance to generate 3 cracking whips that target nearby enemies and deal a % of your damage over 3 seconds. This is good for additional damage over time effects for Torrential Refrain. Legendary Gems. For the Legendary Gems, these will be my recommendations for a core Legendary Gem setup for this build. 5-star Legendary Gems. Bloodsoaked Jade, increasing all damage you do while at full life, increase movement speed, and take decreased damage while below 50% life. Rolling Consequence, dealing damage sends you into a rolling rage, during which your critical hits chance is increased, and critical hits cause a fiery explosion that burns nearby enemies for 3 seconds every 20 seconds. Critical hit chance against burning enemies is increased. These are the top 5-star gems in Diablo Immortal I highly recommend focusing. 2-star Legendary Gems. Pain Class, increase damage dealt to enemies suffering from a continuous damage effect. Increase your movement speed from enemies suffering from continuous damage within 10 yards. Viper's Bite, damaging enemies poisons them with Viper's Venom, causing them to take base damage plus additional damage every second for 6 seconds. Viper's Venom also reduces the enemy's attack speed. More dots, more damage. Crimson Behelit, the new legendary 2-star, the limited event S tier gem from May 1st to the 31st. While above 50% health, dealing damage grants you increased damage for 6 seconds. When taking damage below 50%, the damage taken is reduced for 6 seconds. Behelit's power has separate cooldowns. Wrath buff has a 20-second cooldown, and Mercy has a 60-second cooldown. 1-star gems. Misery Elixir, the duration of harmful effects you inflict is increased. The damage you deal to enemies suffering from harmful effects is increased. The remaining slots all leave up to you and to luck of the rift. But a few good ideas I recommend and see are Everlasting Torment. Critical hit inflicts agony, dealing a percent based damage plus additional damage every second for 6 seconds, and increasing your attack speed for each nearby enemy inflicted with agony. Blessed Pebble increases the duration of beneficial effects and movement after using a beneficial effect. This increases the duration of your judgment and condemned skills for 100% uptime. Lastly, Berserker's Eye, increasing all damage you deal, but also increasing the damage you take by 5%. Crit hit chance is increased. The 5 core legendary gems I recommend are pretty much skyrocket your DPS in all PvE and PvP modes in Diablo Immortal. Alright, this is hands down my new go-to raid build. It brings insane burst potential and steady DPS. Thanks to the new helm upgrade for the Fist of the Heavens, paired with the powerful burn effects from Judgment, Sacred Fire, and Rolling. Bosses just melt under this setup. The rotation is simple, fast, and smooth. It almost feels like you can roll your face on your keyboard and still come out on top. For green sets, Ailments is a must. It boosts all your burn damage over time durations and stack additional burn damage on bosses, making your DPS skyrocket over time. I also run Holy Banner for team support, combining it with my Eternal Gear to boost attack speed and give your whole party a guaranteed 100% crit window. Clean, powerful, and perfect for Inferno VI and Gauntlet bosses. Alright, if you like the build, don't forget to save it to your armory. But that is it for today's video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, message me in game or on Discord. I'll have a link and my information down below. Thank you so much for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. Good luck and have fun. See you next time. Take care.